The silence in Maison Deluxe was the kind that came before explosions. The manager's face drained of color as recognition dawned. His lips moved soundlessly, trying to form words that wouldn't come. Behind him, the two salesgirls who'd been snickering at Jesse moments ago pressed themselves against the wall, suddenly very interested in becoming invisible. Gyeon didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I asked you a question." He took one step forward. Just one. The movement was casual, almost lazy, but it carried the weight of a guillotine dropping. "Do you need help understanding basic Korean? Because I can translate. That is my wife." I didn't." The manager's hands flew up in a placating gesture, but Gyeon's expression didn't change. "Minjun." Gyeon tilted his head slightly, addressing the man to his left, a broad-shouldered enforcer with a scar running through his eyebrow. "Call the owner. Tell him I'm buying this location. Cash. Today." Minjun already had his phone out. "Price? Whatever he wants. Add 20% for inconvenience." Jessie finally looked up from the floor, her eyes wide. "Gyeon, you don't have to—" His gaze cut to her, and the intensity in it stole her breath. Not anger. Something raw. Something that looked like barely contained rage wrapped around absolute devotion. "Don't." His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a shout. "Don't apologize. Don't minimize. Don't you dare tell me what I have to do for you." He crossed the remaining distance to her in 2 strides, shrugging off his jacket as he moved. The fabric was so dark it seemed to absorb light cashmere and silk blend, custom-tailored, worth more than Jessie's entire semester tuition. He draped it over her shoulders with a gentleness that contradicted everything about the violence radiating from him. The jacket swallowed her. She was small, barely 5'4", and the garment fell past her thighs like a protective cloak. It smelled like him sandalwood and something sharp and expensive she couldn't name. She'd been standing outside the boutique for 20 minutes before this happened, staring at the red silk dress in the window display, gathering the courage to go inside. That dress, elegant and flowing, the color of wine or blood or power, had seemed impossible. A dream for someone else. Someone who belonged in places like this. Now she couldn't even remember why she'd wanted it. "The owner's on the line," Minjun said, extending the phone. Gyeon took it without breaking eye contact with Jessie. "This is Gyeon. "Yes, that Gyeon. Your Gangnam location. I want it. Name your price." A pause. "Done. My lawyers will handle the paperwork. Have it ready by midnight." He ended the call, handed the phone back, then finally turned to face the manager, who looked like he was contemplating whether jumping through the plate glass window would be preferable to whatever came next. "What's your name?" Gyeon asked. "Si Choi. Choi Dong-hyun." "Well, Mr. Choi, you're fired. But that seems insufficient, doesn't it?" Gyeon's smile was a knife edge. "You put your hands on something that belongs to me. In my world, that requires correction." 2 more men appeared from outside. They'd been waiting, Jessie realized, probably the moment Gyeon's car pulled up. They flanked Choi, each taking an arm. "No, please. I didn't know. I swear I didn't." "Didn't know?" Gyeon's voice could have frozen fire. "So you only abuse women you think are powerless? That makes it better?" Choi's protests became incoherent sobbing as the men dragged him toward the back exit. The door marked "Employees" only swung shut behind them, muffling the sounds. Jessie stood frozen, the jacket still warm on her shoulders, watching the man who was both her husband and a stranger disappear someone into the Seoul night for the crime of touching her. "Gyeon." Her voice cracked. He turned back, and just like that, the predator vanished. In its place was the man who brought her tea when she studied late, who traced the scars on her hands from years of washing dishes and called them beautiful, who'd knelt in an alley 3 years ago, bleeding from a knife wound, and looked at her like she was an angel instead of a broke nursing student with no business saving a dying gangster. "Let's go home," he said softly. The ride to the penthouse was silent except for the purr of the engine and the city lights sliding past tinted windows. Jessie sat in the back of the Maybach, drowning in Gyeon's jacket, while he sat beside her with one hand resting on her knee, not possessive. Just there, like he needed the physical reminder she was real and safe. The driver, an older man named Park who'd been with Gyun since before Jesse, didn't so much as glance in the rearview mirror. Jesse stared out the window. They passed the Han River, all glittering lights and tourist couples taking selfies. Normal people. People who didn't have bodyguards or secret marriages or husbands who could buy entire boutiques on a whim to punish men who hurt them. People who weren't her. "He won't be permanently damaged," Gyun said quietly. "Just educated." Jessie closed her eyes. "That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to be the truth." The penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of the most expensive building in Gangnam. The elevator required a fingerprint and retinal scan. The doors opened directly into the apartment, no hallway, no neighbors, just $60 million worth of marble, glass, and carefully curated art that Jessie was always afraid to touch. She stepped out of the elevator into the foyer, and the contrast hit her like it always did. Spotless white marble floors that showed every speck of dirt, soaring ceilings with that massive crystal chandelier that looked like frozen starlight. Minimalist furniture in grays and blacks that probably cost more than houses. And then there was Jessie, in her worn-out jeans with the frayed knees, her oversized hoodie with the coffee stain on the sleeve, her canvas bag that was literally coming apart at the seams. She left dirty footprints on the pristine floor. She didn't belong here. She'd never belonged here. "I'll run you a bath," Gyun said, already heading toward the master suite. "I'm fine." He stopped, turned. "Jessie." "I said I'm fine." She shrugged off his jacket, folding it carefully over the back of a chair that probably cost more than a car. "I just want to change and study. I have an exam Monday." "You were humiliated in public, assaulted. You are not fine." "I'm used to it." The words came out sharper than she intended, and she watched them land on him like physical blows. His jaw tightened, that muscle jumping the way it did when he was forcing himself not to react. "Used to it," he repeated slowly. "You know what I mean." "I don't, actually. Explain it to me." He crossed his arms, and suddenly he wasn't gentle husband Gyeon anymore. He was the Gyeong Kyeon, head of the Golden Dragon Syndicate, the man who controlled half of Seoul's underworld and had politicians on his payroll. "Explain to me how you're used to being treated like garbage." "I didn't say." "That's exactly what you said." He closed the distance between them in 3 strides. "And explain to me why you went to that district without security, without even telling me where you were going." "Because I wanted to buy you a birthday present, Gyeon. I wanted to surprise you. I wanted—" Her voice broke. "I wanted to do something normal. Something that didn't require armed guards and bulletproof cars and checking if the store owner has ties to rival gangs before I can browse a rack of ties." "Normal." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want normal." "Yes. You married me, Jessie. You married me. Normal ended the day you said yes." "I know that." She pressed her palms against her eyes, willing herself not to cry. She wouldn't cry. She'd cried enough over the years, cried over empty stomachs and eviction notices and scholarships that didn't come through. She wouldn't cry over this. "I know what I signed up for. I know who you are. But I'm still me. I'm still the girl from the slums who has to take 3 buses to get to class because I don't know how to tell my professors why I suddenly have a private driver. I still have to pretend I'm poor because if anyone at school finds out who I married, my entire life becomes a target. So you sneak away. You hide. You put yourself in danger. I was buying you a tie, Gyeon, not robbing a bank. In my world, there's no difference. Every moment you're without protection, you're vulnerable. And my enemies would love to get their hands on you." His hands cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. "Do you understand what they would do to you? What they would do to hurt me through you?" She did. God help her, she did. She'd seen the photos in his office, the crime scene images he thought he'd hidden from her. She knew exactly what happened to people who crossed the Golden Dragon Syndicate. "Then maybe," she pulled away from his touch, "maybe I shouldn't have married you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Gion went very, very still. What did you say? You heard me. Say it again. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Look me in the eye and say it again. Jesse met his gaze. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I'm not cut out for this life. Maybe you'd be better off with someone who actually belongs in your world instead of a nursing student who can't even afford nice clothes. He moved so fast she didn't have time to flinch. His hands slammed against the wall on either side of her head, caging her in, his face inches from hers. Not touching, not threatening, just trapping her in the intensity of his presence. You don't get to do that, he said, and his voice was shaking. Actually shaking. You don't get to decide you're not worthy. You don't get to leave. You saved my life, Jesse. 3 years ago, you found me bleeding out in that alley, and instead of running, instead of calling the cops or taking my wallet or any of the 1,000 smart things you should have done, you took me to your apartment. You stitched me up with your student supplies. You let a stranger bleed on your floor because you couldn't walk away from someone in pain. Gion, I fell in love with you while you were threading a needle by candlelight because your electricity had been shut off. I fell in love with you when you gave me the last of your food and pretended you'd already eaten. I fell in love with you when you told me your name and didn't ask for mine because you said everyone deserved privacy. His forehead dropped against hers. You think you don't belong in my world? Baby, you are my world. Everything I built, everyone I control, every dollar I have, it's all meaningless without you. Stop. The word came out as a whisper. I can't. His hands moved from the wall to her waist, gentle now, pulling her close. I won't. You're stuck with me, Mrs. Gion, for better or worse. In bulletproof vests and designer gowns or hoodies and canvas bags. I don't care what you wear. I care that you're breathing. Jessie's resolve crumbled. She buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent, feeling his heart hammer against her cheek. I hate this sometimes. The hiding, the lying, the pretending I'm someone I'm not. I know. I hate that I can't tell anyone you're mine. I know. I hate that men like that manager look at me and see trash. His arms tightened around her. Then we'll change what they see. She pulled back just enough to look up at him. What? They saw you today. The secret's out, Jessie. Someone filmed us. By tomorrow, the entire city will know that the Devil of Soul has a wife. A muscle worked in his jaw. If they're going to look at you anyway, we'll make sure they see a queen. She should have known it would go viral. By the time Jesse woke up the next morning, sprawled across Gyeon's chest in his massive bed, wearing one of his t-shirts that fell to her knees, the video had 17 million views. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Someone's phone, camera, shaky and poorly angled, but you could see everything. The manager shoving her hitting the floor. Gyeon walking in like an avenging angel in a 3-piece suit. The audio was worse, crystal clear. You have 5 seconds to apologize to her, or I will ensure you spend the rest of your very short life regretting you were ever born. The comments section was a war zone. Oh my God, is that really the... Gyeon. Who is she? Why does she dress like that if she's married to a billionaire? She looks homeless, Allah. Okay, but the way he came in for her, that's romance. Romance? He's literally a criminal. I'd let him be a criminal for me. TBH. His wife is so pretty, though. Like underneath the clothes you can see it. Pretty? She needs a stylist and a shower. Jessie's hands trembled as she scrolled through her phone. Gyeon was in his office, taking calls, damage control. He'd called it, but she couldn't stop reading. Couldn't stop seeing herself through their eyes. Homeless. Poor. Unworthy. The media coverage was worse. News sites had dug up everything. Her enrollment at Seoul National University's nursing program, her scholarship, her address in the slums before she'd moved into Gyeon's penthouse. They'd found her social media sparse and years old, but there and plastered screenshots everywhere. The Devil's Bride. Secret wife of Seoul's most dangerous man lives double life. From rags to riches. How a nursing student caught Korea's biggest crime lord. Is she a victim or a gold digger? The mystery of Gyeon's hidden wife. They even found a photo from 2 years ago, Jessie in her nursing scrubs, exhausted after a double shift at the free clinic where she volunteered, her hair in a messy bun, not a scrap of makeup. Someone had posted it with the caption, "This is who the billionaire mafia boss married. Make it make sense." Jessie set the phone down before she threw it across the room. A soft knock at the bedroom door. Minjun's voice. "Mrs. Kyon? The boss wants to see you in the dining room." She found Gyeon at the head of the long glass table, 3 newspapers spread in front of him, his laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. He looked up as she entered, and something in his expression softened. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, ending the conversation. "Sit." She sat. Breakfast was already laid out, traditional Korean dishes she recognized, mixed with Western options she didn't. Enough food for 10 people. She picked at some rice, not really hungry. "You saw," he said. "Not a question. Hard to miss when my face is on every news site in the country. Jessie, they think I'm a prostitute, or a gold digger, or a victim of human trafficking." She laughed, but it was hollow. "Take your pick." Gyeon closed his laptop with deliberate calm. "They think whatever narrative gets them clicks. It doesn't matter. It matters to me." "Why?" He leaned forward. "Why does it matter what strangers think?" "Because..." She struggled for words. "Because now everyone knows. Your enemies know. Your business associates know. Every person you've ever threatened or hurt or stolen from, they all know your weakness now. Me. You're not a weakness. I'm exactly a weakness, and you know it." She met his eyes. "That manager from yesterday? He has an uncle. Choi Taejin, White Tiger Clan." Gyeon went very still. "How do you know that?" "Because I'm not stupid, Gyeon. I know who your rivals are. I know the names, even if I'm not supposed to." She pushed her plate away. "You bought that store and had his nephew beaten in an alley. Do you think Choi Taejin is going to let that slide?" "Let me worry about..." "No." She stood up. "No more of that. If I'm in this, I'm in this. No more hiding. No more pretending I'm just some normal girl who happens to live here. They want to look at me? Fine. Then give them something to see." Gyeon studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, slow and dangerous and absolutely devastating. "All right, Mrs. Kyon, let's make you a queen." The transformation didn't happen at a boutique. It happened in the penthouse, because Gyeon had the boutiques come to them. By noon, the apartment was flooded with people. Stylists, designers, tailors, makeup artists, hair specialists, an entire army of Seoul's finest, all summoned with a single phone call and an unlimited budget. They set up in the main living area, transforming it into a war room. Racks of clothing appeared like magic. Gowns and dresses and suits and shoes and jewelry that gleamed under the chandelier light. A makeup station materialized by the window, a hair station beside it. Jessie stood in the center of it all, still in Gyeon's t-shirt, feeling like a specimen under glass. "All right," Gyeon said, addressing the room like a general briefing troops. "Here's what we're doing. My wife needs a complete wardrobe, casual, business, formal, everything. I want options for every possible scenario." He gestured to Jessie. "She's beautiful. Your job is to enhance, not hide. Understood?" A chorus of, "Yes, Mr. Kyon," echoed through the room. "And one more thing." His voice dropped to something cold. "If any of you speaks to the press about what you see here today, what she looks like, what she wears, anything, I will personally ensure you never work in this city again. Are we clear?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Crystal clear, Mr. Kyon." "Good. Get to work." What followed was the strangest 6 hours of Jessie's life. They started with measurements, every inch of her body catalogued and recorded. Then the clothes, dress after dress, outfit after outfit, each one tailored to perfection. The lead stylist, a severe woman named Madame Park, who looked like she could kill with a glance, circled Jessie like a shark, assessing, adjusting, rejecting anything that didn't meet her standards. "No," she said, pulling off a red dress that Jessie actually liked. Too sweet. She needs armor, not decoration. More clothes. A black suit that made her look like she could run a boardroom or a crime syndicate with equal ease. A dark green gown that clung to curves Jessie didn't know she had. A white ensemble that was all sharp angles and clean lines. Better, Madame Park murmured. But she needs the right face. The makeup came next. Not the soft, natural look Jessie wore on the rare occasions she bothered. This was war paint. Dark eyes that could cut glass. Lips the color of spilled wine. Contour that carved cheekbones sharp enough to wound. "Look at me," Madame Park commanded, tilting Jessie's chin up to study her work. "Good. Now look at yourself." Jessie turned to the mirror. The woman staring back was a stranger. She looked dangerous, expensive, like someone who belonged on Gion's arm. Like someone who could walk into a room and have every head turn not in mockery but in fear or desire or respect. "Your hair," Madame Park continued. "It's beautiful, natural, but it needs structure." The hairstylist took over. Jessie's natural curls were shaped and styled into something elegant and intentional. Not tamed, she still looked like herself, but refined, polished. "Now the most important part." Gion's voice came from behind her. He'd been watching the whole time, Jessie realized. Leaning against the wall, observing like a director watching his film come to life. He crossed to her, and the room seemed to hold its breath. "The way you move," he said quietly, for her ears only. "The way you look at people. That's what makes them believe or doubt." His fingers found her chin, tilting her face up. "When someone insults you, what do? I look down." "No." His thumb traced her jawline. "You look them in the eye. You let them see that their words mean nothing, that they mean nothing." "Gion, I can't." "Yes, you can. You've survived poverty, hunger. You put yourself through school while working 3 jobs. You stitched up a dying gangster in your apartment and didn't flinch when he told you who he was." His eyes burned into hers. "You're already strong, Jessie. Now you just need to let them see it." He stepped back, assuming the posture she'd seen 1,000 times. Shoulders back, head high, gaze flat and cold. "Try it," he said. Jessie straightened, lifted her chin, met his eyes with all the fear and anger and determination she'd been hiding for years. Something flickered across Gion's face. Pride, desire, something darker. "Again," he said, but colder. She tried. Failed. Tried again. "Pretend I'm the manager from yesterday," Gion suggested. "Pretend I just called you trash." Jessie's expression hardened on instinct. The memory flooded back, the humiliation, the rage, the helplessness. But this time, instead of looking away, she channeled it, stared Gion down with all the contempt she'd wanted to show that manager. "There," Gion breathed. "That's it. That's my queen." The room burst into applause. Madame Park actually smiled, a rare and terrifying sight. "She's ready," the stylist declared. "Give me 2 days to finish the alterations, and she'll have a wardrobe worthy of her position." "You have 24 hours, Gion corrected. "We have a banquet tomorrow night." The banquet was at the Shilla Hotel, the kind of event where entry required either billions of won or enough criminal connections to make billions seem quaint. It was technically a charity fundraiser for children's hospitals. In reality, it was where Seoul's underworld gathered to negotiate territories, settle disputes, and show off their power. Jessie stood in front of the bedroom mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress was black, simple in construction but devastating in execution. It hugged every curve, fell to her ankles in a whisper of silk, and had a neckline that was modest until she moved and it became absolutely lethal. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo that showed off her neck and shoulders. Diamond earrings, real ones, Gyan had informed her, worth more than most people's houses, glinted at her ears. "You look like you could kill me," Gyan said from the doorway. He was in a black tuxedo, because of course he was, looking like every dark fantasy Jessie had ever had. "Is that a compliment?" "The highest one I know." He crossed to her, pulling a black velvet box from his pocket. One last thing. Inside was a necklace. Not diamonds this time. A single black pearl on a platinum chain, simple and perfect. It was my mother's, he said quietly. One of the few things I have from her. Jesse's breath caught. Gyan, I can't. You can. You will. He fastened it around her neck, his fingers lingering on her skin. You're my wife. My queen. Everything I have is yours. The ride to the hotel was silent, but Gyan never let go of her hand. The ballroom was a study in controlled chaos. 300 guests, all dressed to kill, sometimes literally. Jessie recognized faces from news reports and police wanted posters, politicians she'd seen on TV, business moguls, and underneath it all, the current of violence that ran through every handshake and smile. Stay close, Gyan murmured as they entered. These people are sharks. Heads turned as they walked in. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Jessie felt the weight of 300 gazes, assessing, judging, calculating. She lifted her chin and met them with the stare Gyan had taught her. The whispers started immediately. But she didn't care. They found their table front and center, naturally. Minjun was there already, along with 3 other members of Gyan's inner circle. They all stood as Jessie approached, and she realized with a jolt that they were standing for her. Mrs. Gyan, Minjun said, pulling out her chair. You look formidable. Thank you. She sat with the grace Madame Park had drilled into her yesterday. Back straight, hands folded, expression neutral. The dinner progressed through courses of food Jessie didn't taste. She was too busy cataloging the room, noting the power dynamics, watching who spoke to whom. This was a chess game, she realized. Every conversation was a move, every alliance a strategy. And then he arrived. Choi Tae-jin, head of the White Tiger clan, walked in fashionably late with an entourage that screamed new money and old violence. He was older than Gyan, maybe mid-50s, with silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. Here we go, Gyan muttered. Choi Tae-jin made his rounds, greeting allies, ignoring enemies, and generally holding court like he owned the room. Then his gaze landed on Jessie. He changed trajectory. Gyan, Choi said as he approached their table, his voice carrying that particular brand of false warmth that preceded violence. I heard rumors, but I didn't believe them. You married? To a woman? I thought you only loved power. Gyan's hand found Jessie's under the table, squeezing once in warning. Choi Tae-jin. Still overcompensating for inadequacy with gaudy displays, I see. Choi's smile sharpened. And this must be the famous wife. I saw the video. Very dramatic. His eyes raked over Jessie with obvious disdain. Though I must say you clean up better than I expected. Yesterday you looked like a homeless woman. Today you almost pass for someone who belongs here. The table went silent. Minjun's hand moved toward his jacket. Kyan's jaw clenched. But Jessie remembered. She remembered the cold stare, the lifted chin, the absolute certainty that she was worth more than the sum of her circumstances. She stood slowly, deliberately, until she was eye level with Choi Tae-jin's diminishing smirk. You're absolutely right, she said, her voice carrying across nearby tables. Yesterday I was wearing worn-out clothes and carrying a dirty bag. Do you know why, Mr. Choi? She took a step closer. Because I was shopping for a birthday gift for my husband, with my own money. Money I earned working 3 jobs to put myself through nursing school. Another step. Choi Tae-jin actually backed up. I wore those clothes because I had to, because I come from the slums, because I know what it's like to skip meals so you can afford textbooks, because I've stitched up knife wounds in alleyways and held the hands of dying people who couldn't afford hospitals. Her smile was all teeth. What's your excuse, Mr. Choi? What hardship forced you to compensate for your obvious inadequacies with gold chains and an entourage of men who look like they share a single brain cell? Someone at a nearby table snorted with laughter. Choi's face went purple. How dare. And one more thing, Jessie continued, not letting him finish. Your nephew? The one who put his hands on me yesterday? He didn't lose his job because my husband is powerful. He lost it because he's a coward who thinks poverty gives him the right to abuse women. She leaned in, dropping her voice to something sweet and poisonous. Tell me, Mr. Choi, is that a family trait? Or just in his generation? The silence was deafening. Then Minjun started clapping. Slowly, deliberately. One by one, the other men at Gyeon's table joined in. Then the next table. Then the next. Within seconds, half the ballroom was applauding Jesse Ross while Choi Tae-jin stood frozen, publicly eviscerated by a woman in a black dress. Gyeon stood, placing a hand on the small of Jesse's back. I believe that's checkmate, Choi. Please, enjoy your evening. We certainly will. He guided Jesse away from the table, through the crowd, out onto the balcony where the Seoul night air was cool and sharp. That, Gyeon said, pulling her into his arms, was the hottest thing I've ever witnessed. Jesse laughed, giddy with adrenaline. I think I just started a war. You just won one. He kissed her forehead. My men will follow you into hell after that. You did in 2 minutes what I've been trying to do for years. You made Choi Tae-jin look weak in front of his peers. He insulted me. He did. And you destroyed him. With words. With grace. With that cold stare I taught you. His hands framed her face. You weren't Jessie from the slums just now. You were Mrs. Keon. My queen. And every person in that room knows it. She kissed him then, pouring every ounce of fear and triumph and relief into it. When they finally broke apart, she was breathless. So what happens now? She asked. Gyeon's expression darkened slightly. Now? Now Choi Tae-jin has been publicly humiliated. He'll retaliate. Not tonight, but soon. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Are you ready for that? Ready for the real war? Jessie thought about the manager from Maison de Luxe. About the years of being looked down on, dismissed, treated as less than human because she was poor. About the way Gyeon looked at her like she hung the moon and stars. She thought about the black pearl resting against her collarbone, about the applause, about the cold satisfaction of watching a powerful man scramble for dignity. Yes, she said, I'm ready. Far below, the city glittered like scattered diamonds. Somewhere in those lights, enemies were plotting, rivals were scheming. But for this moment, standing on a balcony with her husband's arms around her and the taste of victory still sweet, Jessie Ross, now Jessie Keon, felt like she could take on the world. And maybe, just maybe, she could win. The note appeared 3 days after the banquet. Jessie was sitting in the back of her pharmacology lecture, half listening to Professor Kim drone on about drug interactions, when she reached into her bag for a pen. Her fingers brushed paper that shouldn't have been there, folded, crisp, expensive. She pulled it out slowly, careful not to draw attention. The handwriting was elegant. The message was not. Queens can be dethroned, especially ones who forget where they came from. Next time you're alone, remember, not everyone who smiles is your friend. Not everyone who watches is just curious. And when you finally realize you're in danger, it will already be too late. A concerned citizen. Jessie's blood turned to ice. She looked around the lecture hall. 200 students, most on their phones or laptops, a few actually taking notes. Normal. Everything looked normal. But someone had been in her bag. Someone had gotten close enough to slip this note inside without her noticing. Someone had touched her things. Her phone buzzed. Gyeon's name flashed on the screen. Security just flagged something. Where are you? She texted back with trembling fingers. Pharmacology, got a note. His reply was instant. Don't move. Minjun is outside. Class ended 10 minutes later. Jessie packed her bag slowly, hyper-aware of every person around her. The girl to her left who'd borrowed a pencil last week. The guy behind her who always sat in the same spot. The professor who was gathering his papers. Any of them could be watching. All of them could be innocent. Minjun was waiting in the hallway, trying and failing to look like he belonged on a university campus. He was too broad, too alert, too obviously dangerous in his black suit. Mrs. Kion, he greeted, falling into step beside her. The car's out front. I have another class in an hour. Not today, you don't. They made it to the parking lot without incident. The Maybach was there, engine running, door already open. Jesse slid inside to find Gian waiting, his expression carved from stone. Show me, he said. She handed him the note, watched his jaw clench as he read it, watched something dark and furious bloom behind his eyes. Choi Tae-jin, he said quietly. It has to be. You don't know that. I know exactly that. The paper is from the Shilla Hotel stationery, the same hotel where you humiliated him. He crushed the note in his fist. He's sending a message. Then let me send one back. Let me... No. The word came out sharp. Final. You're not going back to school. Not until this is handled. Gian, I have exams. I have clinicals. I can't just... You can and you will. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. Minjun will move into the guest room. You'll have 2 additional guards rotating shifts. Anywhere you go, they go. No exceptions. Jesse felt the walls closing in. So I'm a prisoner now? You're protected. He looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw fear in his eyes. Real, raw, terrifying fear. Do you understand what he's threatening? He's telling you he can get close, that your guards aren't enough, that he's been watching you. I know. No, you don't. He took her hands, squeezing hard enough to hurt. 3 years ago, Choi Tae-jin got his hands on one of my lieutenant's wives. We found her body in pieces. Pieces, Jesse. It took dental records to identify her. I will burn this entire city to ash before I let him do that to you. The image hit her like a physical blow. She swallowed hard, tasting bile. Okay, she whispered. Okay. But it wasn't okay. The penthouse became a gilded cage. Jesse woke up surrounded by luxury and suffocated by bodyguards. Minjun slept in the guest room with one eye open. 2 more guards rotated shifts in the lobby. A 4th monitored the security feeds. She couldn't go to the corner store without an armed escort. Couldn't take a walk without Minjun shadowing her. Couldn't even order food without Gyeon's security team vetting the restaurant. And every night, Gyeon came home later and later. His suits sometimes spattered with things Jesse didn't want to identify. His hands sometimes split and bloody. His eyes always that little bit colder. He was hunting Choi Tae-jin. She knew it. He knew she knew it. But neither of them spoke about it. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. The note remained the only threat. No more messages. No attempts. Nothing. Jessie felt herself going insane. I need air, she told Minjun one afternoon. Real air, not balcony air. We can walk the building's garden, he offered. Fully secured. I want to go to the market. The one near my old apartment. I want to buy vegetables and haggle with ajumas and feel like a normal person for 5 minutes. Minjun looked pained. Mrs. Kion, please. She hated the desperation in her voice. Please, I'm losing my mind here. He made a call, then another. Finally, 15 minutes. Full escort. You stay within arm's reach at all times. The market was exactly how she remembered, chaotic and loud and wonderfully, beautifully normal. Vendors shouting prices, ajumas haggling, the smell of fresh fish and ripe fruit and street food sizzling on grills. Jessie walked through it like a ghost visiting her old life. Past the vegetable stand where she'd bought the cheapest cabbage. Past the fish vendor who'd sometimes slip her the less pretty cuts for free. Past the tteokbokki stall where she'd splurged on her birthday. Mrs. Kion, Minjun said quietly. We should go. 5 more minutes. We've been here 15 already. The boss will. 5 more minutes. She wandered to the far end of the market, where the fabric sellers set up their stalls. Bolts of silk and cotton in every color. She touched a piece of red silk, the same shade as the dress she'd seen in the window of Maison de Luxe before everything changed. Beautiful choice, an old woman said, smiling. For a special occasion? Maybe, Jessie replied. Then, Actually, no, I don't need it. Because she could have it. Could have anything. Gyeon would buy her 1,000 red silk dresses if she asked. But she couldn't have freedom. Couldn't have normal. Couldn't have a life where she wasn't constantly looking over her shoulder. That's when she noticed the man. He was standing 3 stalls down, pretending to look at scarves. But his eyes were on her. Had been on her, she realized, since they'd entered the market. He was young, maybe mid-20s, wearing clothes too nice for this neighborhood. Minjun noticed too. His hand moved to his jacket. The man saw the gesture and bolted. "Stay here," Minjun barked at the other guards, then took off after him. Jessie stood frozen for exactly 3 seconds before her brain started working again. The man was a distraction. Had to be. The real threat was Mrs. Kyon. A voice behind her. Unfamiliar. Mr. Choi would like a word. She spun. 3 men, all wearing white tiger pins on their lapels. White Tiger Clan. They'd been waiting. The remaining guards moved between them, hands on their weapons. "Step back. Now. We just want to talk," the lead man said, smiling. 5 minutes. Then she can go home to her husband in one piece. Or, the smile widened. We can do this the hard way. Jessie's mind raced. Minjun was gone. 2 guards against 3. People everywhere, but nobody who would help, not against the White Tiger Clan. She could scream. Could run. Could... The decision was made for her. The lead man moved faster than she expected, grabbing her arm and yanking her toward a black van that had appeared as if summoned. Her guards drew their weapons. Shots rang out. Then Jessie was being shoved into the van. A cloth pressed over her nose and mouth, chemical sweetness flooding her lungs, and the world dissolved into darkness. She woke up in pieces. First, the smell. Rust and salt and something rotten. Second, the cold. Concrete beneath her, metal against her wrists. Third, the pain. Her head throbbing, her shoulders screaming where they'd grabbed her. Jessie forced her eyes open. Warehouse. Abandoned. Judging by the broken windows and water-stained walls, she was handcuffed to a support beam, wrists raw and aching. Her phone was gone. Her shoes were gone. She was still in the jeans and sweater she'd worn to the market. How long had she been unconscious? Hours? Days? She's awake. A voice echoed through the space. Tell the butcher. The butcher. That's what they called Choi Taejin in the underworld. Jessie's stomach lurched. Footsteps approached. Choi appeared from the shadows, flanked by 4 men who looked like they enjoyed their work too much. He was smiling that same false warmth smile from the banquet. "Mrs. Kyon," he said pleasantly. "Welcome. I hope the accommodations are comfortable." Jessie said nothing. Just stared at him with that cold look Gyeon had taught her. Strong, silent type. I respect that. Choi circled her like a shark. "You know why you're here, of course. Your husband has been very aggressive in his attempts to find me these past weeks, burning my warehouses, killing my men, making my life difficult." He crouched in front of her. "So I thought, why not make his life equally difficult? Why not take the thing he loves most?" "He'll kill you," Jessie said quietly. "Oh, I'm counting on him trying." Choi pulled out his phone, opening a video app. "See, we're going to live stream this. Every major player in Seoul's underworld will watch as the devil's precious wife begs for her life. And when Gyeon comes rushing in to save you, and he will, he's predictable like that, my men will be waiting." He stood, gesturing to someone off-screen. "It's really quite brilliant. I get to kill his wife, destroy his reputation, and eliminate him all in one night." A camera on a tripod was wheeled into position. Professional quality. Lighting was set up. This wasn't some amateur operation they'd planned this. "Any last words before we start?" Choi asked. Jessie lifted her chin, met his eyes. "Yeah, you're an idiot." The slap knocked her head sideways. She tasted blood. "Let's begin," Choi said. The rain started 20 minutes after Minjun called. Gyeon was in a meeting negotiating territory with a Chinese triad representative when his phone buzzed. He ignored it. Buzzed again. He ignored it again. The third time, Minjun burst through the door, face white, and Gyeon knew. He knew. They took her, Minjun said, and his voice was shaking. The market. It was a setup. They took Mrs. Gyeon. The room tilted. Gyeon heard someone screaming, realized it was him. His hands found the conference table and flipped it. 200 pounds of mahogany and glass shattering against the wall. How long? His voice didn't sound like his own. 43 minutes. 43 minutes. 43 minutes Jessie had been in the hands of men who would hurt her. Men who would... Sir. Another voice. One of his tech specialists. You need to see this. A laptop. Screen showing a live stream. The view count was already at 200,000. And their center frame was Jessie. Chained. Bleeding. Surrounded by White Tiger Clan enforcers. And Choi Tae-jin. Smiling at the camera like he was hosting a game show. Teaching her husband a lesson about respect, Choi was saying. About knowing one's place. About what happens when you... Gyeon stopped listening. He was moving, grabbing his coat, his phone, shouting orders. Location. Find me a location. Traffic cameras. Cell towers. I don't care how you do it. Find her. His team scrambled. Computers booted. Phones rang. The entire organization mobilized in seconds. Boss. Minjun appeared at his side, holding something. We found this in the street, where she was taken. Jessie's canvas tote bag. The same dirty, frayed one she'd refused to replace. It was soaked with rain, the fabric torn, the contents spilled across the sidewalk. Her student ID. A pen. Notes from her pharmacology class. Evidence of her life before him. Evidence that she'd been real and warm, and here and now she wasn't. Gyeon's hands closed around the bag. Something inside him broke. Or maybe it was something that had always been broken that finally shattered completely. Get me everything, he said, and his voice was empty. Hollow. The voice of a man who had nothing left to lose. Every weapon we have. Every man. Every favor I'm owed. I want the entire city locked down. I want every White Tiger location identified. I want... Got it. His tech specialist looked up. The live stream is pinging from the old shipping docks. Warehouse 7. I'm 90% sure. Then we move now. Gyeon dropped the bag, his hand moving to the locked cabinet behind his desk. He pulled out a sword, traditional Korean, blade folded steel, edge sharp enough to cut shadows. His grandfather's. His father's. Now his. Boss, Minjun said carefully. We should plan. Bring the full team. Tactical gear. This could be a... I'm going alone. That's suicide. I don't care. Gyeon turned, and Minjun actually stepped back from the look in his eyes. She's there. She's bleeding. And every second I waste planning is another second he hurts her. So, I'm going. Now. You can follow or you can stay. But nothing you say will stop me. Minjun looked at him for a long moment. Then, give us 5 minutes to get into position. Then you make your entrance. 2 minutes. 3. Done. The warehouse district was a graveyard of industry. Rusted shipping containers stacked like children's blocks, cranes frozen mid-swing, and at the center, Warehouse 7, lit up like a stage. Gyeon approached on foot. The sword was heavy in his hand. Rain plastered his hair to his face. His suit was ruined. He didn't care. Inside the warehouse, Jessie was still chained, still bleeding. Choi was monologuing for the camera, explaining his grand plan, reveling in his moment. And Jessie was looking at something in her hair. A hairpin. The diamond one Gyeon had given her last week. She'd worn it to the market. She was working it free, hidden from the camera angle, her wrists twisted at an angle that had to be agonizing. But she was doing it. His brilliant, fierce wife was picking her handcuffs while her captor gloated. Gyeon almost smiled. Then he kicked in the door. The sound was thunder. Every head turned, the camera swiveled, and there, framed in the doorway like a nightmare-given form, was Gyeon. soaked, armed, absolutely unhinged. You wanted my attention, Gyeon said, his voice carrying across the warehouse. You have it. Choi's smile faltered. Seize him. Kill. Gyeon moved. The first man died before he finished drawing his weapon. The sword was a silver arc through the rain-dark air, and suddenly there was blood and screaming and the wet sound of steel through flesh. Gyeon didn't stop, didn't slow. He cut through the white tiger enforcers like they were paper, his movements precise and economical and absolutely brutal. This wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Jessie used the distraction. The hairpin slid into the handcuff lock. Click. Her hands were free. One of Choi's men noticed, lunging for her. Jessie grabbed the chain that had held her, swung it like a weapon. It caught him across the temple with a crack that echoed through the warehouse. He went down hard. You trained her, Choi said, backing toward the rear exit. How touching. Gyeon stalked forward. Bodies littered the concrete behind him. His suit was more red than black now, but his hands were steady on the sword. Last chance, Gyeon said. You apologize to my wife. You beg her forgiveness. Maybe I kill you quickly. I don't beg. Then you die slowly. Choi pulled a gun. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space. Gyeon felt the bullet punch through his shoulder, felt his arm go numb, felt warm blood spread across his chest. He didn't stop walking. Jessie, he called, not taking his eyes off Choi. Close your eyes, baby. Gyeon, close them. She did. What happened next was artistry. Gyeon's sword flashed once, twice, 3 times. Choi Tae-jin, the butcher of Seoul, head of the White Tiger clan, fell to his knees, then fell further. Blood pooled. The camera was still recording. Gyeon dropped the sword. Stumbled. His shoulder was screaming now, the adrenaline fading, blood loss making the world tilt. Gyeon! Jessie was there, catching him before he fell. Her hands on his face, his chest, checking the wound. You idiot. You beautiful, reckless idiot. Had to, he mumbled. Had to get you. I know. Stay with me. She was already stripping off her sweater, pressing it against the wound. Her nursing training taking over. Min-jun! I need medical supplies! Now! The warehouse filled with Gyeon's men. Min-jun leading the charge, his team securing the area, someone killing the live stream. But Gyeon only saw Jessie. You're okay, he said. It wasn't a question. I'm okay. You're the one who got shot, you dramatic bastard. Worth it. His hand found her face, bloody fingerprints on her cheek. Always worth it. You could have died. Would have. For you. His eyes were starting to close. Every time. Always. Don't you dare pass out on me, Gyeon-kyeon. Don't you. But he already had. Jessie performed surgery on the marble floor of the penthouse. Not surgery. Technically, the bullet had gone clean through, missing bone and major arteries by centimeters. But she cleaned the wound, stitched the entry and exit points, administered antibiotics and pain medication with the supplies Min-jun had frantically acquired. Gyeon woke up 6 hours later in his bed, Jessie asleep in a chair beside him, her hand holding his. Hey, he croaked. She jerked awake, eyes red-rimmed. You're up. Hurts like hell. Good, you deserve it. But her fingers tightened on his. The doctor came, said you'll live. No permanent damage if you keep the wound clean and don't do anything stupid like invade rival strongholds with a sword. Can't promise that. Gyeon, they would have killed you, Jessie. Slowly. On camera. I would have watched you die, and I would have burned the world. So yeah, I'd do it again. I'd do worse. He tried to sit up, winced, let her help him. You saved me. You picked those handcuffs. You fought back. You trained me. I gave you tools. You had the strength already. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Jessie said, the live stream went viral. Every major crime family in Asia saw you kill Choi Tae-jin. Saw me pick those cuffs and fight. The White Tiger clan is leaderless. fractured. And 7 families have already sent representatives. They want to negotiate. They want. She took a breath. They want to meet with both of us, together. Gyan studied her face. What do you want? I want to stop hiding. I want to stand beside you, not behind you, not protected and locked away. Her eyes met his. I want to be your queen. For real. No more secrets. No more shame. Jessie. And I want that red dress. The silk one from Maison de Luxe. The one I was too afraid to even touch. She smiled, fierce and bright. If I'm going to rule the underworld with my criminal husband, I'm doing it in style. He laughed, then groaned as it pulled his stitches. You're going to be the death of me. Probably, but you'll die happy. Already am. The ceremony was held 3 weeks later, when Gyan's shoulder had healed enough for him to wear a suit without wincing. The venue was the most exclusive private club in Seoul, the kind that didn't have a name, just a location known only to those who mattered. Every major family sent representatives, Chinese triads, Japanese yakuza, Korean syndicates, even some Russian vor. The room was arranged like a throne room. 2 chairs at the far end, high-backed, ornate, positioned as equals. Jessie stood in the preparation room, looking at herself in the mirror. The red silk dress fit like it had been made for her. It probably had been Madame Park's final touch. The fabric hugged every curve, fell in elegant lines, moved like liquid fire. Her hair was up in a style that showed the elegant line of her neck. The black pearl rested in the hollow of her throat. She looked like power, looked like danger, looked like a queen. Ready? Gyan appeared in the doorway, devastatingly handsome in a black suit that somehow made him look even more dangerous. His shoulder was still bandaged beneath the fabric, but he moved without hesitation. Nervous, she admitted. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He offered his arm. But you don't have to do this. Even now, we can go back to hiding. Keep you safe. I'm tired of safe. I'm tired of hiding. She took his arm. Let's give them a queen to remember. They walked in together. The room fell silent. Every eye tracked their progress down the center aisle. Jessie felt the weight of hundreds of gazes assessing, calculating, judging. She met them all with that cold stare, the one Gyan had taught her. The one that said she'd survived poverty and violence and kidnapping and come out stronger. They reached the chairs. Gyan turned to face the assembled families. 3 years ago, he said, his voice carrying through the space. A nursing student found me bleeding in an alley. She didn't know who I was, didn't care. She saved my life anyway. He looked at Jessie, and something softened in his expression. She asked for nothing, expected nothing. And when I offered her everything, my protection, my wealth, my name, she hesitated, because she knew what it meant, knew the cost. He turned back to the crowd. You've seen her now, seen her fight, seen her survive, seen her stand beside me while I tore through our enemies. Some of you have called her weak, a liability, a pretty face to be used against me. His smile was sharp. Choi Tae-jin thought the same. Where is he now? The silence was answer enough. So let me be clear. Gyan's voice dropped to something cold and final. Jessie Ross. Jessie Kyon is my wife, my partner, my equal. Any move against her is a move against me. Any insult to her is an insult to me. Any threat. He let the word hang. Well, you've seen what happens to threats. He held out his hand to Jessie. She took it, standing beside him. From this day forward, Gyan continued, she rules as I rule. Her word is my word. Her orders are my orders. Challenge her and you challenge the Golden Dragon Syndicate. Minjun stepped forward, carrying a second item, a smaller version of the dragon pendant Gyan wore. Jessie had seen it in his safe, had wondered about its significance. Gyan took it, turned to Jessie. This was my mother's, and her mother's before that. The women of my family who were strong enough to stand beside dragons. He fastened it around her neck, next to the pearl. Welcome to your throne, Mrs. Kyon. The room erupted in applause. Not polite, not hesitant, Genuine. Earned. Jesse looked out at the assembled families, the most dangerous people in Seoul, in Asia, in the world, and saw respect in their eyes. Fear. But also something else. Curiosity. Interest. The knowledge that the game had changed. Because the devil of Seoul had always been terrifying. But now he had a queen who'd come from nothing, who'd learned to fight in his world, who wore red silk like armor and smiled like a blade. And that, they realized, made him absolutely unstoppable. Later, after the ceremony, after the negotiations and alliances and carefully worded threats, Gyeon and Jesse stood on the penthouse balcony, watching the city lights. Regrets? He asked. Jesse thought about it. About the girl she'd been 3 years ago, poor, struggling, invisible. About the woman she was now, powerful, feared, married to a monster. Only that I didn't buy you that tie, she said. He laughed, pulling her close. You gave me something better. What? A reason to be more than the devil. A reason to build instead of just destroy. His lips found her temple. You civilized me, Jesse Ross. Made me into something almost human. You're still a monster. True, but I'm your monster. Lucky me. Lucky us. They stood there as the city sprawled below them, their city now, their kingdom, built on violence and blood and a love that had started in an alley and grown into something that could shake the underworld. Jesse looked down at the red silk dress, remembering the girl who'd been too afraid to touch it, too ashamed to enter the store, too certain she didn't belong. That girl was gone. In her place stood a queen, and she was done apologizing.